All right, here we go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Bump and Run. I'm Pete Colasano, joined, as always, by the man, the Wolverine at heart, Scott Racy. What's going on, dude?
A Wolverine, you say, as we dip and dive and duck and splash into college football. It kicks off tonight. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I want to ask you something before we start, because it's almost blasphemous to say what I think is the truth. But I'm going to ask, in your heart of hearts, do you like college football better than the NFL? It's almost sacrilege to say it. I do.
So
I actually like college football
I think I do too. I like Michigan more than I like the Broncos at this point. That's for sure.
That's probably easy.
Well, yeah, that's true. No, but
you know what it is, dude?
So, go ahead.
I love the. I don't even know how to explain it. Like,
I know that's where I'm at too.
The epic value of each game. I use this example all the time, and I won't use your Michigan Appalachian State example. Same year, I use this example all the time. Stanford was 40-point underdogs against USC and wins the game outright. I think it might have been Jim Harbaugh's first year as head coach there.
Yeah, I think it was.
40-point underdogs, they win the game outright. And I use this term like that the earth stops spinning on its axis for one whole second when stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
You know, the year that New England was undefeated, they played the Raiders, and I think they were like 19-point favorites over the Raiders. And I said, if the Raiders would have won that game, you'd have been like, wow, that's a big upset. Like, it would have been
also the same year.
Same year, yeah, right? I said that would have been I think that's why that example stuck in my head, because it was like this year, if the Raiders beat the New England Brady's, you'd have been like, wow, that's a big deal. Like, holy cow. Stanford beats USC, and you almost pass out. Like, It's beyond belief. And I think that's what it was. Like, I was in tears last year. I'm a semi-Tennessee Volunteers fan. My dad liked them. They're orange. Orange was my dad's favorite color. But when Tennessee beat Alabama and they rushed the field, I'm enjoying the scene on the field as much as I enjoyed the game. And it was a great game.
Great game.
Tennessee with the upset. You know, I always thought it was a Heisman moment until what's-his-face got hurt. But it's that, I don't know, it's just a different feel. Whereas if the Jets won the Super Bowl, I'm not one to like even watch the post-game show. Like, I don't really care what's said. I probably would because I want to see Joe Namath bring it out or something like that. But like, it's just, there's a different vibe with college football than there is with pros. I don't know. Maybe it's just less corporate, more personal. I don't know what it is, but that's how I feel. That's why I like it more.
So let me give you my. Although I think Notre Dame. I think Navy beat Notre Dame was that same year too. What a crazy year that was.
Right.
So I like the 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock game day to noon kicks. They kind of get better throughout the day. They used to. Now noon's going back to good games again with the Big Ten and stuff. I like coming home from something, and I got Fresno kicking off at like 11 o'clock. I could pour Scott. I like that. I like the band. If you go to a live, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you haven't been to a college game, and I'm not saying, and no offense to Rutgers or nothing like that, because they put on a decent show.
But a big time game.
Yeah, but you got to go to a big time, 90,000 plus, get there early, walk around. It is an absolute spectacle of what the town does. Right. It's incredible. The band walks through the town, the cheerleaders around, family.
Obviously, it's a younger crowd, too. It's less corporate than you get.
Yes.
But you also don't get the darker side. Like, the fans aren't as evil towards each other, not literally killing each other. I've watched Auburn fans sit next to Alabama fans, and they're yucking it up, and they're busting each other's balls, but they do it with kind of a smile on their face. And you don't really get that in the
I've been to Michigan, Ohio State live. And it was not as brutal as I thought, not even closer. That we sucked back then, too. Not sucked, but we weren't as good. I heard Michigan State is awful.
I could imagine that. Yeah.
I heard
it's especially after some of the events of the last couple of years.
Yeah, so yeah. And there was a Michigan State alumni who's got a radio show in Detroit that went on the air. And when the schedule was announced that Michigan and Michigan State are playing at night, He told Michigan fans, "Don't come. It's going to be
Oh,
bad."
I remember. Yeah.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Michigan fans can hold their own too, pal. I don't know
Sure, of
what you're
course.
thinking, but
And that's the worst thing you could say because now I'm definitely.
yeah, and now I'm definitely going, and I'm going with a hammer.
Exactly.
So
It's, I don't know. It's a more personal feel with
Yes.
college, I think it is, than it is with the
I think I like college football more. I think I'm just more involved with NFL, with fantasy and survival.
I think everybody is, right?
And stuff too. So like, but I like the college game better.
You know what it is too? In college, every game really matters.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
like if you're, let's say
this
Florida
might be the last
State
year it does, though. Honestly,
we'll get into it, but Florida State is a top 10 team this year. So if you're a top 10 team, you're fighting for a potential playoff spot, fighting for a conference championship. If you lose week 1, in your mind, you're almost like, holy shit, the fucking season's over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
know.
every game really, really matters. Whereas, we talked the other day about Chris Jones might hold out for the first 8 games of the season for Kansas City. 7 games, I guess it would be. If they went 0-3, are you suddenly like, Kansas City has no chance?
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a different feel. Like, there's certainly urgency in the NFL, and we love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, every game really fucking matters in college football.
You can't win your championship at week 1, but you can lose it.
You can lose it. Yeah, exactly. Good point. So why don't we just get right into that? Let's do some college football preview.
Let's go, brother. By the way, I know it doesn't matter, but we've talked about this over the summer, that the Yankees let Anthony Volpe play. It was a good idea. Let him sit through it. He just tied the game 3-3 on a 3-run homer, 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning.
And you know what's great about that?
Good for him,
I'm actually glad you brought it up because it does matter. This is how you get your fans to buy in.
Yeah.
It was the Bernie. Jesus Christ.
Williams?
It was center field. It was the Bernie Williams, the Jorge Posadas.
You got to stop drinking during the day, dude.
I do. You know what happens? I thought about this 2 weeks ago when I was like, I'm really good with names normally. What happens is my thought stream gets ahead of me, and I'm thinking of what I want to say and can't recall the damn name all the time. I didn't even start drinking yet. I will be. I just haven't started yet. But your Bernie Williams, your Derek Jeters, your Jorge Posadas, like, think of that team and who was truly loved. Mariano Rivera, obviously.
Andy Pettit.
That was another one for sure. And it's like they become – those are true Yankees, right? Like, even if – not to say that guys who come here can't become true Yankees, but for fans, you need a couple guys to say, these are my Robinson Canoes. Like, the guy that I'm with him because he was here when I was here.
Aaron
when
Judge.
he started, I was here. Like, he didn't start in Cincinnati. He didn't start in San Diego or in Kansas City. He started here with me. I watched it. I'm attached. I'm invested. So yeah, it matters, and it's nice, and I hope he does well. And then that'll be a guy whose jersey sales go through the freaking roof if he can, really be a stud player for them. So
young, good-looking kid, endorsements,
shortstop, which in a Yankee uniform is of course very special. So absolutely.
All right, I did our best shows when we're all over the place.
Of course.
Let me give you the top 15, the AP top 15 real quick. 15 Oregon, 14 Utah, 13 Notre Dame, 12 Tennessee, just mentioned you and your dad, 11 Texas. Top 10, Washington, Clemson at 9, Florida State at 8, Penn State at 7, USC at 6. Your top 5, LSU, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia.
Very good. Now, we usually like to take a look at like who's in that's going to be out. So who do you have for that? Why don't we start with who's in the top 25 that's going to be out or going to be moved at the very
I got 2, bud. First one that stood out to me, 17, the TCU Horned Frogs. They're replacing their whole backfield, 2 running backs, quarterback who just got cut from the Saints. I thought he was going to have or Chargers, I think. I thought he was going to have a chance to stick around. Max Dugan.
Mm-hmm.
Their stud wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, who's a Charger. They're replacing a ton. Big 12 is going to be no joke this year. Last year of it, basically, with Texas and Oklahoma. I think those 2 teams are better. I think you can make a case for Kansas State. If they lose 3 games, they might be out of the top 25 with how loaded it is. So
that's one. You stole one of mine. That was definitely one of mine.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. As I looked through this list earlier today, I had a really hard time of moving teams out. Now you can go like Tulane is at 24.
Yeah, I didn't want to go that route. Yeah, I know.
Sure, but what scares me more is like I would be more inclined to think they're going to move up, because if you're putting them in early, then you think they're a pretty good team.
This is true.
And they're obviously not in a great conference, certainly not one of the top, Big Five conferences. So as I looked through the list, I had a really hard time, but TCU was one that stuck out to me because Duggan is not there anymore, and he was a really big part. Think of some of those epic wins.
Yeah, he
was a really big part of that. Now, like I always say, first-year starting quarterbacks, I don't care how good your team is, there's usually a period of time that just makes it hard. Now, maybe they got a stud there. I have no idea, but that was definitely one that stood out for
me. Second one for me, and we touched on this last night a little bit. I got North Carolina at 21. I think Drake May is slightly overrated. I don't hate him, but I think he's, I don't know, it gets a lot of hype. I know he's a big kid. I don't know. There's just something about him I don't love. The schedule's tricky. You got Notre Dame.
Threw for like 38 touchdowns and like 4,500 yards.
Sort of Ryan Leaf. What the fuck can I tell you?
I know, but
there's something out there. I don't like. There's something I just don't like. I don't hate him.
Okay.
I don't hate him. I just don't want to put him in the top 2 of the Heisman right now. That's what I'm saying. Schedule's tricky. Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State. You're gonna have to play one of those teams in a championship game if you get there.
Right.
Another team, 3 losses could really, if they're like the wrong losses.
Oh, for sure.
If you lose to Syracuse or something, you're out. Like you're done.
Yeah, I mean, as far as AP poll and who's voting on that, there's only one reason that any of those people who voted have North Carolina in the top 25, and that's because of Drake May. Right. They don't know anything else about like any truly. Right? I don't know that we do either, and so
exactly.
My second, but I do love talented quarterbacks in college, and I'll keep my faith in them, so I will keep them in there. You made a good point when we were talking to Michael Cohen last night of Sports Talk Nation about how, or even before we started talking, well, we'll get into that later. We'll get into. I don't want to jump into something else. My second one, I don't. Yeah, because we start jumping all over.
Are you sure you're not drinking?
No, not yet. Well, I just took one sip, so maybe I'm done. My second one, I'm not moving a team out of the top 25. I'm moving a team, Georgia, out of the top 10.
Whoa!
Yes.
Whoa!
I'm moving Georgia out of the top 10. Similar reasons. I keep bringing this stuff up. Stetson Bennett is gone. He was a big part of why that team was so explosive. Now, don't get me wrong. They're still going to have – they've had either the best or second best recruiting class every year for the last 3 or 4 years. I still believe they're a good team. I just think I look at the top 10 and I look at their schedule and I look at those teams that are in there and I say most of these teams have veteran quarterbacks. But Alabama's in a different world. They have multiple choices at quarterback. I think they stay in there. I think Georgia – listen, if you lose 2 games, you're out of the top 10 probably. There's a really good chance that depending on who those 2 are and when you lose. So,
oh man, our Final Four is going to be awesome.
So if they lose 2 games, that means they're probably not in the SEC championship game. So like, I think there's opportunities for them to get knocked down. I think LSU is up this year. I think Alabama will be back up this year. I think Clemson will be back up this year. I think Florida State is a top team. So I think Georgia takes a dip just out of the top 10. I'm not saying out of the top 25. I think that'd be a bit of a stretch. The other thing is, like, think of how many over the last 2 years, how many players have been drafted off this team, both sides of the football. Like, I don't know. There's got to be a reckoning with that at some point. And what's a reckoning? If we look at Alabama, one of their off years is two losses.
Right.
But you miss the playoffs and maybe you're just outside the top 10. So I'm going to say Georgia falls out of the top 10. That's not out of the top 25, but out of the top 10.
All right. What are 2 teams that are out of the top 25 now that you think could get in at the end of the year?
Okay, so my first team that I think is a possibility is Texas Tech. They have 2 young quarterbacks that I really like. One of them I like more than the other, but they have 2 young quarterbacks that were pretty productive last year. And I think there's a chance for some excitement there as the rest of the conference knows Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the conference after the season. So I think there's a chance for Texas Tech with some great quarterback play to be one of those teams. I'm not thinking they're a top 10 team, but I could see them ending the season somewhere between 20 and 25. I think they sneak in. Again, I just think elite quarterback play. It's tough to come. It's tough to find, and I think they have it. Like you said, TCU lost their quarterback. Baylor lost their quarterback. Like there's a couple guys gone. I think they got a chance to move into the top 25 there.
My first one's South Carolina. We love the coach.
Spencer Rattler's still there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Spencer
incredible.
Rattler's still there. Probably 23 years old at this point. A lot of hype early, a little bit of a dick. Transferred out, kind of calmed down, matured a little bit. Who's the coach there? Beamer?
Beamer, yep.
Great coach. SEC East, not great. I think 10-2 is possible with this team. They got a tough one when you're in North Carolina Tar Heels to start tomorrow Saturday night. You got by that game, you go into the conference. I think they can go. I think they can get in.
I don't hate that one because Spencer Rattler really played pretty damn well at the end of the season last year. They had a couple upsets. Like they looked pretty good. So I like that one. My second one is a little more on the sentimental side than it is on the using my brain side. I would really like to see Mississippi State find a way to sneak into the top 25 after losing Leach as their coach. Hopefully, I would love to see them kind of rally. You know, they're going to have some kind of, first home game. They'll have some kind of, big video on the big board, all that kind of stuff. I just would like to see them rally and jump in. Just one last push for old Coach Leach.
I like it.
I was listening again just a couple days ago on one of the sports talk shows somewhere. I think it was on ESPN radio. I was working and I was listening, and somehow his name came up. And it was a former player who said, any of you who are listening who watch football at all, everything you're watching has been affected by Mike Leach. Everything that's done in the sport now has been changed because of one guy, Mike Leach. I think that's an amazing thing. Here's a guy who never won a national championship. I'm not sure he even won like a conference championship. But he really, really changed the game. So I'm just sentimentally rooting for Mississippi State to come.
I like it.
Do a job.
Second one for me, I got Louisville. They always seem to have pretty good athletes.
Always.
I know they lost their quarterback. I tell you, I'm not a fan of the ACC. I just was killing North Carolina too. But offensive coach Jeff Brom back at his school. Something tells me, man, I think they could upset a team. He went to the Big Ten championship game last year.
Yeah.
At Purdue. Louisville gets better kids than Purdue. I don't know, man. I just got a hunch that he's going to upset somebody and they can get in at the end of the year 8-4, 25-24, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to give you one more team to keep an eye on.
Go ahead.
Texas A&M. Let's not forget that just 2 years ago, they're not in the top 25 right now? They are. They're at 23.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, keep an eye on them. Here's why. They had the top recruiting class 2 years ago. Last year, they come into the season, and they were like a top 5 rated team, right? And then they had a subpar season, definitely put some pressure on Jimbo Fisher this year. I think a move that was made that was a little controversial because of who it was. They picked up Bobby Petrino as their offensive coordinator. Now, let's not pretend like Bobby Petrino's a good guy or something like that. But let's also not pretend that he's not a brilliant offensive coach. He was Lamar Jackson's coach at Louisville. So he has always, Mike White was his quarterback at Western Kentucky. Big time numbers. It's the only reason Mike White is in the NFL right now. So I think because their defense was pretty good last year, it just was their offense was so putrid, which was a shock because they had.
Bad.
So you bring in a Bobby Petrino, and now suddenly a team that was ranked high last year that fell, I could see them being ranked low this year and moving up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Texas A&M in the top 10 by the end of the season.
I like it. You got some Heisman candidates for me?
I do. I have one specific one. There's the obvious ones, right? Like Caleb Williams and Drake May and some of those guys. Somebody I'm looking at it as who would you put your money on? That you get a pretty good return on investment possible. I'm going to go with Michael Penix out at Washington.
You love this guy.
Well, here's what's I saw a real interesting fact. Michael Penix threw for more passing yards than Caleb Williams did last year. He threw for 4,600 yards. Okay, he ran for a few other touchdowns. Got a lot of weapons this year, and Washington plays actual defense, unlike USC. Don't be surprised if Washington has one loss on the season, and they're the team from Pac-12, that whole area, that makes it to the playoffs. I wouldn't be too surprised. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they beat USC, because USC doesn't play any defense whatsoever. You have 28 points at home against San Jose State, for Christ's sake. Michael Penix, if they were to go 11-1 or however many games they freaking play, there's a guy I really like for Heisman. I think you're getting like plus 1,600 on him, plus 14, 15, 1,600, somewhere in that range. Love it. I absolutely love it. But it's a quarterback. These days, quarterbacks always get the shine. So if he has the kind of season he had last year, maybe a couple extra running touchdowns, a couple more passing touchdowns, he's right there. When you think about it for a second, that he actually had more passing yards than Caleb Williams, that's big time numbers, man, because Caleb Williams was insane last year.
I got a couple guys here. I got Caleb written down. Obviously, the returning winner. Only happened one time last 10 or 12 years. Colleges brought back a ton of these guys. Remember, they were never giving the trophy to sophomores and stuff, and now
it's just
all
really
these guys
hard.
are coming back.
It's really hard because you have to do better than you did the year before, and markedly better. Or else it's like, oh, we saw this already.
Right.
You know?
I got, excuse me.
I don't mean to bore you.
I got Michigan running back Blake Corum, who's on track to win it last year, and he got hurt in the Illinois game, and he missed last couple games. Sucked. That kind of killed their year, too. Great player, stronger, thicker, faster than he was last year. The rumor has it out of Ann Arbor. And they're going to want to run the football. You know how Jim does it.
Of course.
Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., the guy's a freak. He's fantastic. But with that award, it usually goes to the quarterback. If the wide receiver has good numbers, the quarterback usually gets the credit, which isn't fair.
Unless this is one of those rare Ohio State years. Like, they usually have weapons all over the place. And I assume there are other great – yeah, I'm sure they do. But if it just happens to be one of those years where he gets all the love, like he's just getting all the balls, it's possible. Especially, it'll be a first-year starter for Ohio State, whoever it ends up being, and it's unlikely that person will get – if he goes for like 13, 14 touchdowns or something like that, it would fall to him, not the quarterback. So,
I got one more, a little bit of a dark horse. Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman, who we like a lot.
After what we saw last week, for sure.
I don't put much into that. I'm just saying, kind of like they got 4 big games. He's going to get showcased in. Older guy, knows what he's doing.
Under the Golden Dome too.
Under the dome. And listen, I like the kid. He grew up a Michigan fan, so what can I say? He was on Dan Patrick this week. Good kid, really good kid.
Now, I'm really surprised you didn't put the Michigan quarterback on the list, because he's probably closer to the top of the list than Corum even is.
So I like JJ. I think JJ's electric again. He's going to stay healthy, knock on wood. He's going to rush for a bunch of touchdowns too. But they don't have the greatest of receivers. They got good ones, but they don't have USC, Ohio State, those kind of guys. And I put in my mind that they're going to run first.
Sure.
And if they get ahead early, it's going to be a lot of running. Even more, because they got 2-3 guys that are going to run the ball. So I hope he's going to have a good year. I just don't know Heisman numbers are going to be there.
Yeah. Obviously, Drake May, I think, will be near the top of the list. And if for no other reason, like we were talking about this last night, he's 6'4", 230. Like, he's a big, strong kid. He was a redshirt freshman last year. And I think what he has in his favor this year is that, the ACC, while I think it'll be improved, Florida State will be better, Clemson will be better, it's not the most defensive conference on the planet. And, he put up pretty big, 38 touchdowns last year, 4,500 yards. I think that gives him a lot of room to do really well, to put up some big numbers. It's kind of the same with Penix out at Washington. Like, Pac-12 football is not exactly known for defense.
Right.
So your numbers do have to be kind of astronomical to be part of that conversation. But out there you can. I think ACC is kind of similar. Outside of Clemson, the rest of the conference is, if you look at when they played at a conference or even in conference, Clemson was one of the only teams in that conference, and maybe Syracuse last year were the only 2 teams that played any kind of like legitimate defense. So I could see him putting up 40 touchdowns this year. And if he does that, if he throws for like 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, That's Tecmo Bowl numbers, man. That'll be tough to beat.
I like it. Do you have a playoff Final Four for me, sir?
So, obviously, I've already kind of led into this. Where like I don't think Georgia is going to be in there. I think this will be. Let me see there. I don't necessarily have like 4 specific teams that I have. What I think is awesome about this year that we haven't had in quite some time. If you think back 8 to 10 years, it's like Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and then one other team.
Yeah, for the most part.
Like,
yeah.
For the most part, like that's what we've had. And then you throw Georgia in the last couple of years. So it's like there's been 5 or 6 teams, for a while there was Oklahoma.
The Michigan last 2.
Yeah, it's like there's not a lot. I think this year, there's a lot of teams that can really make some noise. And I think it may be even more difficult for the, what do they call it? Like the panel that makes these decisions, whatever, the committee that makes the decisions for the playoff teams. Because I can see a lot of like, I beat you, but we got beat by someone else and you beat them.
I know.
I could see Florida State beating Clemson, but say losing to North Carolina, but Clemson beats North Carolina. So which one of those 3 do you take? If you all got 1 or 2, like
people are saying that in the Big Ten, like Michigan beats Ohio State, but Penn State beats them, and then Ohio State beats Penn State. It's like,
that's what I mean. I could really genuinely see, and even with the Big 12 this year, I mean, I would expect Oklahoma to be improved, but I think Texas will be improved.
Yeah.
So I really do think this is going to be one, and this is great for us for what we do here, and also what us as fans. Like to me, this is the least predetermined season that we've had maybe in a decade. Like if you look back at the last maybe 10 years, I guarantee you most of us picked at least 3 out of the 4 playoff teams, or 2 out of the 4. Man, if you could pick half the playoff teams before the season even starts, I don't know. It kind of takes a little away. I genuinely am it's pretty wide open to me. For example, I expect Michigan to beat Ohio State this year, especially because Ohio State will be starting a new quarterback this year. But would you be stunned if Ohio State won the game? I mean, of course not, right? Would you be stunned if Auburn beats Alabama or if Auburn beats Georgia? Well, Hugh Freeze, new coach, new excitement. Like Tennessee is ranked in the top 10. They beat Alabama last year. Maybe they beat Georgia this year. Like I really do think this is the most balanced. Maybe this is the benefit of NIL. You know what I mean? Maybe that money pulled some players away from one team, and there's money everywhere, right? Especially in Texas and the SEC. There's money everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a positive effect of NIL, because I really do think it's pretty wide open. I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson was there. I wouldn't be shocked if Florida State was there. I think Washington is going to be the team that comes out of the West, out of the Pac-12. I don't think it's going to be USC because they don't play freaking defense. So I just think it's wide open. I think Wisconsin is going to have a really good season with their new coach, and they got some really nice transfers to come in. So it's hard.
Pete, it's not 12 teams yet. It's only 4.
I know. This is what I'm saying. Like I don't have it down to 4 because, God, if it was 12, this would be the perfect year for 12.
I know.
Because I could really make an argument for 10 teams, 9 or 10 teams. I really could. Wouldn't it be nice to have Washington and USC coming out of the West instead of just one of them, or maybe neither of them? Like, it'd be kind of cool. I like the idea. I actually like the idea of 8, but that's besides the point.
All right, since my partner's not going to play the game, I
don't have a good answer. I'm bailing on this one.
My Final Four. Number 4, I got the Clemson Tigers. I think they bounce back. I think they like this quarterback. There's a reason why that DJ Uwelele transferred out. I think this kid's pretty good.
He played at the end of the season and looked pretty good.
Dabo still recruits pretty good, and
Absolutely.
The ACC is only about them in Florida State, I think. They will play the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Georgia's still pretty good. I think their team is loaded.
QB.
I think, I hope they don't. Believe me, I hope they don't have one. I think the ACC East just stinks. Like I said, I have South Carolina as one of my sleeper teams because I think they're gonna win 8-9 games. So Georgia's much more talented than them.
Sure.
My third team, I got the Texas Longhorns.
Oh.
I think Texas is ready to go. We've heard this for a long time.
They're as talented as any team.
I like this kid Quinn Ewers, and I'll tell you why. This kid, he was a little wacky. He went to Ohio State. He was one of those first guys to take the NIL money. Didn't work out there. A little wacko, a little mullet kind of guy.
Yeah.
Came into Texas and worked hard. He had that Alabama game wrapped up, and then he got hurt, and that game went sideways. I wouldn't say wrapped up, but they were playing pretty good with them when he was in there. Cut off the mullet, matured. He beat out. They didn't even want to talk about Archie Manning yet. That guy he's like Sarkisian's like, nope, yours our guy. He's focused. I like that. They're good defense always. And I got them playing my Wolverines number 2. You know me, I'm nervous about this shit. I think it's a jinx. I think this team's very good. It's the best team, hopefully knock on wood, that I've in a long time. They're balanced. A little distraction really with Jimmy being suspended and all that shit, but I think like they got great assistant coaches. Jimmy trusts them, so I think they're gonna buckle down. And you know this as a coach. The best teams are player led, and this team is player led. My championship game, I have the Georgia Bulldogs against my Michigan Wolverines. And again, I hate to do it, dude, but I think this is a new year, new podcast. Calisano's got Aaron Rodgers. He's a Jet fan. Yankees suck, and I'm doing it. The champion. The Michigan Wolverines will do it. I will be dead the next day. I don't care. Let's go blue.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. So it'll be only the second championship in their history, so it'll be nice to see, right?
Second history?
Isn't their second in last 50 years or something like that?
But they have like 11 before that.
Oh, okay. In the modern era, they only
play with no face mask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really do mean it though. So listen, I think this is a great year for Michigan because of everything that I said previously. Like, I don't think that there's the typical front runners for the typical reasons this year. I think any of those top teams, other than Michigan, frankly, you can find like serious flaws. And over the course of a 13-game season, those flaws will show at some point or another. Even if it's 1 or 2 losses, like it matters. So that's why like a Georgia to me, even Alabama, like there's issues there because you're starting a new guy. It's just tough to ask for him to compete at that level week in and week out.
I totally agree. I think that the fact they have a 3-headed monster, and they're not really sure where they're going yet at this point, is scary.
Yeah.
I think I agree with LSU even too. Like, listen, Brian Kelly was great in year 1. Expectations right away in year 2.
I mean, Jesus, they have his quarterback who, like, they already got him as like a Heismann. It's like, wow.
I know.
Like, slow down.
But they play in the SEC West. Yeah, they might be good, but their SEC West is loaded.
This is what I mean. So, like, I think this is a great year for Michigan. Man, if you can't do it this year, it's going to be tough any year because this is the most balanced the whole the country has been. So we shall see. We'll see. I think it's going to be an exciting as hell year just because I think it's the most unpredictable year that we've had in at least a decade. I mean, you don't even have Alabama in the playoffs, and I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way. So like that's exciting to me. Now, does that mean they can't make the playoffs? No, they definitely could because they're still loaded everywhere.
Oh, they definitely could. Again, I'm happy that Florida State's back up in the top 10.
Yeah.
Do we trust them yet, too? Like,
no,
I don't know. Like,
absolutely not. Yeah,
Clemson's got a resume. I'm taking a risk with Texas. Like, Michigan, Georgia has done it. Like, I mean, but.
No, but I like that one too with Texas.
People love Penn State. They're getting a quarterback too. We don't know anything about this guy.
First-year starter again there. That just scares the shit out of me. So I think Texas is a great pick. Plus, don't forget, they're going to SEC next year, and it's like this is the year to sweep through to Big 12 because after this, it gets really difficult. It gets really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So I like that one a lot.
We will see. Enjoy it. Kicks off tonight. A couple games, Minnesota, Nebraska. And Utah, Florida.
New coach.
Up in the mountains.
New coach with Nebraska. We got.
By the way, did you see the volleyball game last night in Nebraska?
What was up with that? 90,000 people show up at the football set. Was this some like we're going to set a record kind of thing? Hey, I don't think 90,000 people are trying to see girls volleyball. Yeah. No offense to girls volleyball, but was it put out there like, hey, let's set a record?
Mm-hmm.
That's dumb. Because you know what's dumb about that? It's fake.
I wish it rained.
You know what's really sad about that? I enjoy volleyball, and I enjoy volleyball.
I agree.
I was just watching yesterday. I was watching on one of the like Pac-12 channel or one of the Fox Sports channel, whatever it was. Girls volleyball, like it was Arizona State versus Arizona. I mean, these girls are so athletic. The way they can jump and smash the shit out of the ball, it's great to watch. Like I just absolutely love it. But it's fake.
Yeah,
the girls can draw. The girls didn't draw. You tried to set a new record. You set it out. The people just showed up to drink and say, "Hey, I was part of a record." Like it's almost sad to me. It's almost disrespectful to the girls because you're saying the game's not good enough. We got to make it.
Nebraska needs all the publicity they can get.
They usually have a pretty good volleyball team too, which
do.
is interesting. In middle of the country.
Fuck Nebraska.
Anyway, hey, talk some NFL here.
Yeah, we got 2 conferences left. So we're a week away from kickoff. So next week we will finish the last one as they kick off that night.
Fantastic.
We will go to the NFC North.
The Norris division, as
the Norris, Boomer would say.
Yep.
Last year's division winner and first-round loser to the Giants, the Minnesota Vikings. They moved on from running back Dalvin Cook. Patrick Peterson, cornerback, is now with the Steelers. They lost linebacker Eric Kendricks, who's been there for a long time. Tight end Irv Smith went to the Bengals. They draft Jordan Addison at USC and Pitt, that we liked a lot. Very good, shifty player. They drafted 2 defensive backs, which I think is a good idea considering they were like
some real struggles on defense last year. Real struggles.
Kirk Cousins, guy gets no love, but he's just steady Eddie, dude. He just really is.
I mean, listen, 30 to 35 touchdowns and 10 interceptions with well over 4,000 yards every season. Like, we've documented it multiple times about how he kind of struggles in those big games, night games. But it's hard to argue with him week in, week out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he definitely deserves a little more respect. But the other side of it is, they won 11 games, whether they were come from behind games or 1-score games, whatever it was. Like,
yeah,
I don't care what anybody says. That shit ain't happening again. Even if it just goes to 7-4, I mean, that's 4 extra losses. So I think that's a lot to ask for. So, but I still do think they're probably the class of the division. They make the most sense for first place.
Schedule, dude. I got the same thing written down too. They won a lot of close games at 22, dude.
Yeah.
Week 2 at Philly. Week 3 Chargers come to town. Week 5 host the Chiefs. Week 7 host the Niners. So they have like an every other week thing here going on.
Yeah.
Week 8 at Packers. Week 15 at the Bengals. Week 17 Packers home, and Week 18 at the Lions. That game can mean an awful lot.
That game could really mean a lot.
Dude, they did a great job with the Week 18 schedule this year. It seems like.
Yep.
Some juice.
We think. We assume.
I know.
Right?
I know.
It looks like that now. Yeah.
I want to hope.
Yeah, it looks like that now.
Second place team, up and coming, and our adopted second favorite team, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Listen, this is a team that has the best, if not, one of the best, if not the best offensive lines in the league. So what does that mean? They could run the football, and Jared Goff, who needs time and needs help, gets it.
Yep.
So, if you look at his numbers from last year and how they were able to run the ball and how many points they put on the board, it all goes back to that offensive line. So if that can sustain itself, they're going to score a shit ton of points. I remember when we were doing our week to weeks last year, and I think it was through week 4, I pointed out to you that they were the highest scoring team in the league, averaging 35 points a game, but they also were giving up the most points at 35 points per game on average. So, they have some work to do on the defensive side, but offensively, dude, it all starts up front.
So excellent segue. They went defensive heavy in the offseason, especially in the secondary. They got the pass rush with Aiden. They got another guy up there too. They drafted that guy Branch from Alabama, who, if you guys remember, I loved him at the draft because he stayed. He was projected the first round. He stayed the second day, walked up on stage, got a standing ovation. I see something about that kid.
Yep.
I go, he's got good, something good about him. And it looks like it's paying off. I'm not saying it's just good karma.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Character. It means character.
Character. That's it, character. Jamal Williams out to the Saints. DeAndre Swift traded to the Eagles. David Montgomery in. They moved up to the draft to get Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama.
I felt like that was a little bit of a reach, but the reality is he's a really good player. So I'm not a big fan of the move. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the move, but you do really have a top flight player on your hands now.
They drafted 2 Iowa kids who they know how to play. You can say what you want about Iowa football, boring, but they do get some players.
And they're tough.
Linebacker Jack Campbell, who's a monster, and then tight end Sam Laporta, who it's like tight end you all of a sudden with Iowa.
Yep.
Schedule. Week 1 Thursday at Super Bowl champ the Chiefs.
going to be a lot of fun.
I love that they're in the prime light now, but that's a tough game. And
it's a tough spot, but the best part for them, if you're a Lions fan, no Chris Jones, likely.
True.
For Kansas City. So, listen, what did I just say? They can run the ball down your throat and they can protect the passer. If they can run the ball against Kansas City because Chris Jones isn't there, listen, you're running the ball, Patrick Mahomes isn't on the field. So don't think that this is just some walkover. If they can play any kind of defense at all, there's a chance for them to win that game.
Week 2.
Which would be huge. Let me just say, can you imagine the season starts with Detroit Lions, a perennial basement team, beating last year's Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs? Talk about, I guarantee you the NFL executives are hoping for that on their first fucking game on Thursday night, to get the Lions to beat Kansas City and start that hype machine going. Oh! Chris Jones is hoping that too, because then he's more likely to get a fucking contract.
Yes, this is true. Week 2, Seattle comes to town. Week 4 at the Packers. Week 7 at the Ravens. Week 10 at the Chargers.
Not easy.
Week 13 at the Saints. Week 16 at the Vikings. And Week 17 at the Cowboys. They're going to earn it. They're going to earn it. I don't think anyone's great in the NFC besides Philly, maybe San Fran. But there are a lot of good teams that could be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, good teams.
And I just named all of them.
Yeah, those are good teams. Absolutely.
Third place team, the Green Bay Packers. As soon as they traded Aaron Rodgers, everyone was like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. As training camp has progressed and we're getting closer to the year, people are starting to change their tune and go, maybe this team is not as bad as we thought. Jordan Love looks poised. They got weapons around them, young guys at wide receiver, and they got veteran running backs.
Dude, they also have
play caller.
They also have 6 first-round draft picks, 6 or 7 first-round draft picks on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
And let me just tell you something. You know this from being a player. What happens a lot of times when you lose a great player, everybody else kind of understands that they now need to step up their game. The defense was a bit of a disappointment last year.
It was.
They got all these really good players, and if they kind of get that mentality, hey, we need to step it up. We don't have an Aaron Rodgers to bail us out anymore, which he didn't do last year anyway. We have to step it up. If that becomes, even though let's just say the 10th best defense in the league, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range, if Jordan Love gives you anything, you're looking at a potentially a really successful season. And I don't think Jordan Love is going to be as bad as some people were predicting. Now that he's had a decent preseason, people are changing their tune. And I'm the first one to say preseason doesn't mean shit. So we'll see. I do like what I saw, but I'm more interested in seeing will the defense kind of step up and play better and kind of take over a little bit more of the burden that they didn't do last year.
Schedule. Week 2 at the Falcons. We are on the, I wouldn't say other side, but we like the Falcons a little bit. I think they're
ascending. Yeah, and I like the way they've done it. Yeah.
Week 7 at the Broncos, hoping that's not a shit show yet at that point.
Let me interrupt you there. Because you brought up Atlanta and we're saying that we like what they've done. They're doing what you were basically talking about with Volpe with the Yankees. A lot of homegrown draft picks guys, they're guys.
Yeah.
Ritter at quarterback, the receiver, the tight end, now the running back, Bijan Robinson,
Drake London, Kyle Pitts, yep.
Yeah, these are homegrown guys. These are guys that they entered the league as Falcons. Those fans look at them as Falcons, true Falcons, easy to rally behind. And they also have a very good offensive line. So be careful. It'll matter what their defense looks like, but that'll be really, really tough spot.
Week 7 at Broncos, Week 9 Rams home, Week 10 at Pittsburgh. Falcons at Pittsburgh. That's just a weird helmet game in Pittsburgh. They don't play often, Week 11 Chargers home, Week 12 at Lions, Week 13 Chiefs home, Week 14 at the Giants. That could be a big game. And Week 17 at the Vikings. Last place team, a team that we have been down on at quarterback especially, the Chicago Bears. They went typical Chicago Bears. They went 2 linebackers in the offseason. Jermaine Edmonds from the Bills, and I think TJ Edwards from the Eagles, 2 guys that are going to plug up that middle. When you think Bears, you think tough defense, middle linebacker. They got tight end Robert Tonyan from the Packers. He'll go along with Cole Kmet. They lost Montgomery. And as we've been saying for a year now, year 2, Fields is a huge question mark.
Huge. And the question mark is solely with his arm. And really, it's not even with his arm. It's with his eyes. can we finally start to see a quarterback who can go from one read to the next before he takes off? And what if you watched at all in the preseason, what you saw was a guy who doesn't do that yet. Now, people were jizzing all over themselves because he threw for like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first preseason game. He threw the ball a grand total of 9 yards. You know, and those guys took off for 60 and 70 yards. That's not him, folks. Sorry to tell you. Like, I need to see some real improvement. I haven't seen it yet. If you watch him just this past weekend play against the Buffalo Bills, first read's not open, he looks to take off. Okay, here's all you got to do. Watch his eyes. If you want to go watch what I'm talking about, go watch some highlights or some game film, not necessarily highlights. Like rewatch a game. What you'll see is his eyes look downfield to his first read, and then his eyes go to the offensive line. And what I mean by that is he's looking for defensive line defenders. So where can I take off to run? That's not being a quarterback, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. That's just not. So if that doesn't change,
and it won't last.
And it can't last. It can't last.
No.
It can't. As big, as strong, and fast as he is, sooner or later, you're just going to take that beating. It's not like a running back who you can play kind of banged up. Now you got to be cerebral. You got to think. You got to throw. You can't have a banged up shoulder and play quarterback. Like, you can play a lot of positions in football with a banged up shoulder. You can't do it with quarterback.
Yeah, and you see it with Lamar now. The last 2 years he's missed the end of the year. It wears on you, man.
Absolutely. So, am I saying he can't do it? No, I'm not. And I like the kid. I think he's a good kid, and I think he works hard. I'm not trying to root against him. I'm just telling you what I see. And I just don't see a quarterback. I see a tremendous athlete. I just don't see a great quarterback.
Schedule's not particularly hard.
Last place schedule, yeah.
At Chiefs, week 3. At Chargers, week 8. Saints home. I'm sorry, at Saints, week 9. At Lions, week 11. At Vikings, week 12. At the Browns, week 15. And at the Packers, week 18. I don't know.
Let me just say this. When you're on a 10-game, when you lose the last 10 games of your season and you only had 3 wins last year, every game's tough. There is no easy schedule.
This is true.
So it's just like the Jets last year. Oh, the first 8 games. Dude, 17 games are tough. I mean, you're not good. So I know they got DJ Moore. I know they made some moves. Offensive line. First of all, let me just tell you all, because you hear it on ESPN, oh, they had an awful offensive line. He was 15th ranked offensive line by PFF last year. That's top half of the league. You know who had the worst offensive line again? Joe Burrow. And somehow still they go to the AFC Championship game and almost pull off a victory. So I don't want to hear this offensive line bullshit. It's not – there are a lot – he held the ball. This is statistically accurate as well. Justin Fields held the ball in the pocket longer than any other quarterback in the league. You know what that leads to? Sacks. And you stink because you're not making quick decisions. It's hard. This is not easy, man. Being a quarterback in the NFL is fucking hard. So, you know, I'm not trying to be a dick. Cut the kid some slack. Like, it's hard making these decisions. But until I see quicker decision-making and better decision-making, be real. Every game is hard. Every game is hard when you're on a 10-game losing streak. Okay, I'm sure it's hard to figure out who I'm going to put in last place.
Yeah. Go ahead. You kick us off.
I think there should be a couple more wins, right? Second year in the same system. You got DJ Moore in there. The offensive line should be a little bit better. But I still think your quarterback is bad. Your defense was really bad last year. That was the biggest problem last year was fucking defense. So I think
they tried to help that out this year.
They did make some moves, so their defense should be a little bit better. Listen, they won 3 games last year. I wouldn't be shocked if they won 6. I mean, that's doubling your win total, right? So that's actually, to me, if they go 6-11, that's a successful year. You're still going to be in last place.
You want me to go?
Yeah. You want to do the whole thing?
I got Bears in last 2. I just think they're a peg below everybody else.
I got the Vikings coming in 3rd. And this is one of those, this is almost like, to me, this is very AFC East, but not as good. Like the idea, like, I think the top 3 are going to be very nip and tuck right down to the last week or 2. So when I say I got the Vikings in 3rd out of 4th, they're like a game behind. Like, I don't think this is like, you know, I don't think Chicago's 6-11 and the Vikings are 7-10. They're 8-9, 9-8, somewhere right in that range. So I have the Vikings in 3rd. I got Detroit in 2nd place fighting for a playoff spot. Until I see that defense play significantly better, I'm not just going to give them the credit for being better just because they picked up some nice players that should definitely help. Aiden Hutchinson in his second year should be even better, and he was pretty goddamn good last year. So he'll be even better. So I expect the defense to be better. I would like to say they're a playoff team. It's like the Jets. Like, I gotta see it before I'm committed to it. You know what I mean? Before I could just say, oh yeah, this is what's gonna happen. I gotta see a little something before I just dive into that. And I really do think that Green Bay, if you just look at their overall personnel, head coach, I think they're the best team in the division, and I think they will end up winning the division. Although, like I said, I think those top three teams, it's going to come down to the last week or two for all three to see who's going to win the division.
I agree with you. I got the top three kind of close to that same thing. This pains me to say it, too, but I got Lions in third. I just
probably same reasons, right?
The hype train for me is a little too high.
I think we both hope we're wrong.
I do hope I'm wrong.
I
think the reaches in the draft might come back to bite them a little bit. Their secondary, they've been banged up. Jameson Williams again out the first 6 weeks because of gambling.
Yep.
I don't love that. I thought it was 6. Maybe he.
No, you may be right.
Maybe he appealed and maybe got 4. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. A bunch though. Regardless.
I think rooting for him. I just don't know yet.
I'm with you. I think that's totally fair. I think that's fair. Until you got to give me something, dude. This I mean, like there's a difference between the Detroit Lions, the Jets, and like the Steelers and the Ravens. You know, like
yeah.
Even off a down year, I expect them to be better next year. Whereas until I see it from the Jets and Lions,
I know.
You got to prove it to me, man. There's organizations that do it often, and there's organizations that never do it. And if you're a never do it organization, I got to see it first. Like, think of how we're talking about them. We have Pittsburgh ahead of them. Both of us did. But most people think Detroit's much improved. So, but it's hard to just swallow until you see it.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
Second place, I got the Packers. I love everything you said about their defense, but again, they were banged up as hell last year. Rashawn Gary, their pass rusher, he's coming off an ACL. He was having a great year. Their secondary was so disappointing last year, but I like their coach. I like their play calling, and I think he can do a little bit more with Love now as a younger guy than with Rodgers at the end. And I think now he's got a guy that's like really like built in listening to him, where like Rodgers was doing his own thing. I think that helps.
So 2 things about that. Number one, I think it was the team president came out and said
Gutekunst?
Gutekunst is the GM.
Oh,
forget who it doesn't matter. One of those guys said, now we can run LaFleur's offense. Basically what he was saying is Aaron Rodgers ran the show, and but now we can do. So I think you'll see a little more what you see in San Francisco.
Yep.
That's where he's come from. Number 2, and this is a much bigger deal to me. Bakhtiari, their left tackle, didn't play pretty much at all last year. And he's healthy and ready to go this year. That's the starting left tackle, and he's like a Pro Bowl left tackle. So if he's healthy and stays healthy, I mean, that's a big deal for a young quarterback. Plus, they have a good running game. So, yeah.
And number 1, I got the Vikings.
It's fair.
I don't think they're going to miss Dalvin Cook that much.
I don't either.
I think like running backs now we see in the league, they're a dime a dozen. They didn't even try to offer him money to come back. They were done with him. Alexander Madison's a really good backup. He's been or now a starter, but he was a great backup when Cook missed a lot of time.
This is a big reason why I wasn't excited when the Jets picked him up, because I'm like,
I know. And it takes away from Breece Hall, who I think is better at this point.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Thank you, sir. Kirk Steady Eddie, as I said before, best receiver in the league. They just gave the tight end a bunch of money. They're going to throw it a lot. Defense has got to be better, man. They were awful in that playoff game. They're awful down the stretch. They got a new defensive coordinator.
I don't know that Kirk Cousins even has a losing season when he's been a starter. They keep him back to Washington. I think the worst they were at 8-8.
That's a great question. I think you might be right. I know he gets an unfair shot. But, like, again, like the Lions, you got to believe it till you see it. Until someone knocks off the Vikings in the last couple of years, I think it's
fair.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Next week, NFC West, and then I'll wrap it up as we get ready for the year. We had breaking news Friday evening, sir. Why don't you tell us about that?
We talking about Trey Lance here?
Yes.
Yeah, so San Francisco ends up making a move, which we kind of talked about and said that they should do. I was a little surprised where it went. So Trey Lance ends up going to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. So I didn't picture Dallas picking him up. And I thought they actually got more for him than I expected. You and I said maybe a 5th or 6th-round pick, which is crazy because he was a 1st-round pick, 3rd overall or whatever the hell he was.
And traded up for.
traded up for. I think they had to do it. Like, I just think they had to do it.
San Fran had to do it.
I think San Fran had to do it. Because, you know, you hear people out there saying, you know, well, why'd you have to do it? You could have just made him your third string quarterback. You can't have that. You can't have that.
The elephant in the room.
You can't have that.
Yeah.
If things go south with Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold had already beat him out, so it wouldn't be him in the first place. It would be Sam Darnold coming in.
Right.
And it's just, you don't want that media mess. And it won't be a mess now because he ain't beating out Dak Prescott. So it's not the kind of situation where you're going to say like, oh, look at Trey Lance kicking ass over there in Dallas. He's going to be sitting on the bench. I don't even know if he's the backup. He might be.
I was just going to say he might not be better than Cooper Rush at this point.
That's what I'm saying. So they had to do it. It's the best case scenario where it's unlikely that you'll even see him play this year for Dallas. And then I just want to address one other thing about this, because I hear a lot of these fucking talking heads talking about how San Francisco, two things about it. San Francisco did him wrong, which is just utter bullshit. Do you honestly believe that they moved all those picks, moved heaven and earth to move up to pick them, and didn't want them to do well? I mean, it's just absurd.
No, and Lynch and Shanahan came out and said we failed the kid. Like we feel we let him down, and they were heartbroken about it.
And I don't even think that's fair. They're being good about it because I don't think that's fair. I mean, he
agree.
Had a COVID year, so
they're overplaying it, but they're doing it the right way.
They're being good guys about it, and then they're going to take some heat for that. That's ridiculous. He missed the whole season because of COVID, didn't start, and then when he did start, he gets hurt. That's San Francisco's fault. This is a team that's ready to go to the Super Bowl. They were a game away from going to Super Bowl last year. None of us know what would have happened in that Eagles game if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt. Okay? They're a game away from the Super Bowl. This is not a team that wants to wait for a quarterback to develop. It's not just the coaches and the GM. Think about the players on that team. They're fucking ready to win now, dude. They're not going to want to sit back and wait for this guy to develop and get better while they're a 500 friggin' football team. They want to win now. And they know they have a guy in the locker room who won 8 games last year, or 7 or 8 games as a starter. So there's no way around that. And then the other thing I hear is like, what there should be consequences for Shanahan and Lynch because they made this bad trade. They went to the NFC Championship game. What do you want them to get fired because they made a bad pick? Should Joe Douglas be fired because he picked Zach Wilson? Should the guy in Arizona have been fired because he took the kid from UCLA that year, and then the next year they end up picking Kyler first anyway?
Josh Rosen?
50% of first-round quarterbacks don't make it. They're busts. Does that mean do we discount the fact that they found their starter with the last overall pick? Does that not count?
You can't have it both ways. Yeah.
If you're in last place and you did that, sure, I guess you're going to get punished. They're the best or second best team in the NFC. What kind of consequences do you want? You want to spank them? Do you want them to be fined? Like, I don't know what these consequences are supposed to be. The results are all that matters. It's all about results. They win. So who gives a shit if it was a bad pick? I mean, you can criticize it. I hear people actually saying something should be done. Like what? Robert Griffin III was like, there should be consequences. And like what? What would you like to see them do? Fined? Like, I don't understand what you think these consequences. It's to win games. You draft players to win games. They're winning. They're not. Nothing's going to happen. You think they're not disappointed? They're disappointed. They made a shit pick.
This is a story for another day, but ESPN, the fact that some of the people that they kept and the people that they let go seems totally ass backwards, and that I don't know.
Everyone they have now is player friendly. So they never speak against the player. Trey Lance didn't work out. Trey Lance was in the system longer than Brock Purdy is. So when people say like something like, well, of course Brock Purdy's doing good. Look at the talent that he's surrounded by. It's the same talent that Trey Lance was surrounded by, and he couldn't make it. He couldn't even be the second string quarterback this year. What are you talking about? Do you hear yourself when you talk? Like, stop it.
One more thing about this, and we'll move on. From the Cowboys' perspective, Dak and McCarthy said they didn't even know Jones made the move. Like, it was kind of like.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that this is something for the next contract negotiations between Dak and Cowboys, and I actually think it's really smart. I've been saying this since we started this podcast. I think Dak is good, but not great, and I don't think he's worth
Lance isn't a threat either. The guy sucks.
I could just use it though. Maybe if I could save $5 or $10 million, then it's worth it. And now, not for anything, you have 2 years to develop him. So maybe you can develop him into a quarterback. He'll be in that system at least for the next 2 years, learning the system under McCarthy. So I don't know. If you've totally given up on Trey Lance, then it doesn't mean anything. But I don't think you give up a 4th-round pick for a kid if you think he doesn't have some talent that could be reclamated. So we shall see. But I think that's a big reason why. I don't think Dallas fans, I don't think Dallas coaches, and I don't think Jerry Jones are like getting hard-ons about Dak Prescott, with all the turnovers, with the lack of playoff production. And it doesn't mean that Dak isn't really good, because I think he's good. I think he's top 15. I don't think he's top 10, but I think he's top 15. But I don't think he's worth $40 million a year. This is the problem. This is the salary cap discussion that we always end up having when we talk running backs of why they don't get the money. Because I'm sure like a Dalvin Cook who wanted like $13 million a year or something probably from. If I can get 80% of Dalvin Cook, the guy's not as good as Dalvin Cook, but he's 80% of him. If I can get 80% of Dalvin Cook for 20% of the price, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because then I can sign other guys. I can get a better guard for a better running game. So, if Dak is just a first-round playoff loss every time, well, I could do that for $15 million a year. I don't need to pay somebody $50 million to lose in the first-round playoffs. I can spend $15 million a year and do that, and go buy another receiver and another left tackle and another safety. So I think that's what starts to come down to. If you remember, I'm going off on a little tangent here, though. If you remember a couple years ago when Cleveland drafted Baker Mayfield, and I said, sooner or later you're going to start seeing GMs that start taking the risk of, say, they draft a guy, and Tua is in this very situation right now because he's a year away from having to decide on his 5th-year option. Do you trust Tua? Or does Miami go out and draft another quarterback this year and say, hey, we're just going to reset the top? Like, you can't keep giving a guy more money and you're not getting elite results. You get good results. You're not getting elite results. You're not getting, Joe Burrow results, Mahomes results, Josh Allen results. So I think that's what that trade was about for Dallas. For San Fran, it was just, what could we get?
Yeah.
Get him the fuck out of here. You can't have him there.
FedEx Championship.
Dude.
Victor Hovland.
Second time this year you did it, dude. Second time this year you called the winner of a friggin' tournament. Scotty Scheffler shit the bed.
Oh, my God.
You called Victor Hovland, and he went fucking bananas again. So, you know what the biggest difference in his game is, dude? He used to really have a shit short game.
And he worked the hell out of it.
Oh, my God. Now it's fantastic.
And now Scheffler's putter should be in some body of water somewhere. Good God.
I thought he was going to snap it over his head.
Me too. I thought Ron was going to do it Thursday, Friday, too.
Dude, how about that one hole, though? It's like an island green.
3? Oh, Jesus.
200 and something yards. Holy, you talk about a tester.
They're smoking 4 irons across the body of water, dude. Like, oh.
What's that course? What is it? Pebble Beach? No. Where do they play the Players Championship?
Oh, shit. In Atlanta.
No.
Lake. Yeah. TPC Sawgrass. Players Championship. Yeah. TPC Sawgrass.
Sawgrass, right. So you have the island green. But
yeah.
That's a 125-yard shot or something like that.
I know. Yeah.
This is more or less the same green
I think they're
from 220 or 215.
Dude,
I was like,
I mean, you're smoking a long iron, man, across like.
Ooh, you can't miss.
Scheffler made a 6 on it on Thursday or Friday. That kind of set him in a bad route. Like,
that was tough, man.
Dude, what a great weekend! Just the whole thing, Hovland especially. Xander probably finally put 4 days in a row together, but like just a little not enough. And he said he tipped his head. He goes, "I played great, man. Just Hovland was on a level." It
seems to happen to him a lot, though. He plays just good enough to come in second or third. He's a great player, though, man. He's always there. Xander Schauffele, always there.
But fucking Rory, too. Rory, again, just does enough. Hangs around Thursday. Has a good Saturday, but again, he's too far back.
He was a little banged up, too, though, right?
Yeah, his back's a little banged up. But he does it all the time, too, where he makes a run, and it's like.
He makes a run when he's out of contention.
He's out of contention. He gets within 3 shots, but he's out of holes, and then the other guy's got 4 holes to play. It's like,
yeah. It makes you always say, where was this the last 2 days?
All the time.
All the time.
But Ryder Cup in a couple of weeks, we'll touch on that. I know a couple of our listeners don't love the golf talk, but fuck you.
That's okay. We do. We do this for us.
It's time to gamble.
Okay, let me get the music going for this one. First time this year. I hope it's not too loud. Let's see. It's probably going to be booming.
Booming.
Hold on. Don't start yet. Don't start yet. I have a really fast computer. That's why this is coming on so good. Good Lord. There it is. I just got to lower the volume a little.
I feel like I'm on a typewriter, for Christ's sake.
Oh, no, it's too low. There we go. It's official. It's our first time. All right, I'll let you start it off.
All right, I'm going to Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Of course you are.
No Jim Harbaugh. A couple guys banged up in the secondary, a couple guys banged up on the outside. I don't know how banged up they are. I think it's kind of like precautionary at this point. God, I hope so. I don't know much about Eastern Carolina. I know they have really cool uniforms and cool helmets. Although a team from North Carolina wants to come into my town and fucking beat me a couple of years back. I hope that doesn't happen again. I don't think it does. Michigan is a 36-point favorite. I think they get in and get out. They run the ball. I think it's something like 41-10, something like that. And East Carolina gets not a backdoor cover, but a sneaky cover.
Folks, let's go down to Texas. Now, this happens all the time where I bang on a team and then I end up picking them to win a game that week, but I think this is a perfect fit, and here's why. I don't think Texas Christian University, also known as TCU, is going to have the kind of season that they had last year. They lost their quarterback and all that kind of good stuff. But they're starting the season off at home, and they're playing against Colorado. I think you're getting a discounted line here because of the hype around Deion Sanders, okay? So the line is 20.5, which sounds like a lot, but last year Colorado lost by an average of 28 points per game. I don't think they turn that around all of a sudden. So give me TCU minus 20.5 over Colorado. I expect, now let me just be clear here. I expect over the next 3 years, I expect Deion Sanders to turn Colorado around and become a really strong program. I genuinely do. I just think they were so bad, I don't think you can do that in 1 year. Some of the talented players that he has in here are coming from Jackson State with him, so including his son. So let's not just assume that these are top like D1 players, okay?
And the turnover that they had too was a lot.
A ton, which was intentional. He wanted the shit to be gone, so it was good. But give me TCU minus 20.5.
We're going to go to West Lafayette, Indiana, where the Purdue Boilermakers host the Fresno State Bulldogs. Purdue's replacing a ton. One of the best quarterbacks they've ever had behind Drew Brees. And is that
O'Connell?
Yeah.
Dude, he had a really good preseason.
That's what goes to show me even more that he knows what he's doing. And he's a good player. They lost their 2 wide receivers. Little guys were great last year. Watching them in the Big Ten Championship game. I think Charlie Jones had like 15 catches against Michigan. It was fucking crazy. Coach is gone. New coach, Brahms at Louisville.
He went to
defensive coordinator from Illinois is now in. Fresno is always good in these spots, dude. I know it's a new regime from what they had years back, but they're always pretty good. They're only getting 3 and a hook. Noon kick, maybe a little sleepy early. But I think Fresno wins outright, but I'll take the 3.5.
I like that one. Okay, you picked your team, so I'm going to go with my team as well. Florida State at home against LSU. There's a ton of hype around LSU.
No, neutral site, Bubs.
Whatever. They're the home team. Maybe I'm not taking Florida State. No, screw it. I'm taking Florida State +2 against LSU. Listen, if you're going to be a top 7, top 8 team, and you're going to say you're part of the conversation for national championship or at least the playoffs, if you're going to say that your quarterback is a Heisman hopeful, which he is, you got to be able to win this game. What I like most is that Florida State is now kind of a veteran team. These guys have been with Norvell the last 2-3 years now. I expect them to come out really strong. I think this is a really talented team. They've had some nice transfers come in. Give me Florida State +2 over LSU. Brian Kelly's such a good coach, though. It's a very risky play, but I really wish.
So I have East
I really wish
Carolina.
I
I
came
have
to
East
ball.
Carolina plus 36 and Fresno State plus 3.5.
I got Florida State plus the 2 and TCU minus 20.5. I really like that Fresno State play. I think that's wise. I think that's wise. That's a
You
good
ready?
one.
You ready?
Yeah, I got music for this too, bitch. Don't fuck with me. Scotty trivia with music. Hello. Let's do it. What you got? Really good.
I went college football, and I can't hear you. What happened?
You can't hear me at all?
Now I got you. I got you. Now.
Okay.
All right. I went.
You hear the music?
No.
Okay.
I went with a little unique twist this week.
Interesting.
We are going on trophy games, my friend. Let's see how well you know college football trophy games.
Oh boy.
What 2 teams play for the Golden Boot?
The Golden Boot?
Michigan, Ohio State, LSU, Arkansas, Florida State, Florida, Missouri, Kansas.
The Golden Boot. I don't think it's any of the other. I'm going to go with Missouri and Kansas.
You'd be wrong. If you look at LSU and Arkansas on a map, it looks like a boot.
All right.
Who for what?
I acted too quickly. I got to think it through a little bit.
What 2 teams play for the Paul Bunyan Trophy? Wisconsin and Minnesota, Michigan, Northwestern, Minnesota, Michigan, Northwestern, and Notre Dame.
Wisconsin, Minnesota.
You'd be wrong. That'd be Paul Bunyan's axe. Paul Bunyan Trophy.
Oh, come on! What are you talking about?
Is Michigan State.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I gave you the wrong choice. It should have Michigan State.
You didn't even give me the right choice.
You got it wrong anyway, though. It didn't matter.
It's a conspiracy.
It didn't matter.
Right. Trump was right.
What 2 teams play for the Old Oaken Bucket?
Oh, my God.
Indiana, Purdue, Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Old Oak and Bucket?
Old Oaken Bucket.
Oaken Bucket? That sounds like Oaken Bucket sounds like booze to me, like moonshine. So I'm gonna go. What was it? Kentucky and who?
Tennessee.
What was the first one? Indiana,
Purdue, Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kentucky, Tennessee.
I don't think it's Nebraska, Iowa because they weren't even in the same conference together for a long time. Was Iowa ever in the Big 12? No, right?
No.
That's not an answer. It's Indiana, Purdue, or Kentucky, Tennessee. I'm going to go with my moonshine reason, and I'm going to go to Kentucky, Tennessee.
It is Indiana and Purdue.
Son of a bitch! Dude, how many times I got to do that?
So Nebraska and Iowa actually have a trophy. And they won't even play it. They do.
By the way, I'm taking the win on the Wisconsin.
You're not, because you didn't even see that game.
Paul Bunyan. How many Paul Bunyan trophies can there be?
I got a bonus.
All right.
Well, it's a Paul Bunyan trophy, and then it's a Paul Bunyan axe.
It's ridiculous. I was right. That's a trick question.
What 2 teams play for the old Shillelagh?
Shillelagh. Oh, my God.
Northwestern, Notre Dame, Boston College, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Penn State, or Pitt, West Virginia?
All right. So a shillelagh is kind of like a little, it's like a ukulele, like a small guitar. And it's to me, has a very Irish feel to it. And I can't be more Irish than Notre Dame and Boston. But they don't really play much anymore. Or maybe they do. I'm gonna go Notre Dame, Boston College.
Notre Dame and Northwestern, sir.
Oh, for fuck's sake. It should be Boston College.
As we go into college football weekend, Peter goes 0 for 4.
That was one of my worst showings ever. Although I'm still taking the W on the Wisconsin.
You shouldn't, because
I should. Nobody cares about the Paul Bunyan trophy. The axe is what really matters. Anyway, let me ask you something.
You sped through these things, and you brutal.
Come on, my rationale was pretty good for my wrong answers, though.
Sure.
Look, bourbon is made in an oak barrel. So the old oaken bucket sounds very
By the way, I give myself some credit. I made all those other ones up. The ones you guessed on. So.
Listen. Doesn't my Notre Dame Boston College rationale make sense?
It does.
Boston's very Irish town.
They both wear those stupid gold helmets and whatever.
Yeah, that's a great wrong answer.
Tremendous. Nobody does wrong answers like you, Peter.
And nobody makes up wrong answers like you. So
that's true.
Quite blessed. Unbelievable. Before we go, there's something I have to bring up, and this is not football related. And I have to ask you a question because it came up this week. This is non-football. It came up this week listening to the radio, and I don't understand it. Why is Nickelback a hated band? Do you hate Nickelback or do you like Nickelback?
I'm in between. I don't hate them, but I don't get the hate either though. Like
I don't understand the hate. Like they have a shit ton of like big hits. They're all toe tappers. Like this is my what's the word? Like my rationale behind whether or not I can like a song or not. Like do I tap my toe to it? Like if I'm just hearing it and I'm just listening, I'm not like doing anything, but my leg just starts bouncing or my toe just starts tapping. Nickelback to me is like the ultimate tap your toe music, and they have like a shit ton of hits. I don't understand. Like, is it this idea like they sold out to the man or something like that? Like, which of these big bands hasn't sold out to the man? I don't know. You kind of all have once you start making the big bucks. So I never understood that. Maybe our listeners can like shoot us an email or I haven't mentioned this in a long time. If you go and you listen on Spotify, there's a little button where you can leave us a voicemail and let us know why. If you don't like Nickelback, if you do like them, I don't really. You can tell us. But if you're a Nickelback hater, please tell us why you don't like Nickelback and why there's all this Nickelback hate. I don't get it.
Hey, did you ever give away that shirt from last year?
Yeah, it's still being printed. It's a nice one. So. 112 in the book for Scott Bracey. I'm Pete Colasano. You've been listening to Bump and Run.
I want to thank Michael Cohen again. Thank you for joining us, sir. And I hope the Jets lose week 5. And enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Be safe. Later.
And we'll catch you next week.